Somebody break the tension. Tension. I wanna break the tension. Tension. Toronto. Let's break the tension.
2009, I believe, was the last time that our Kylie performed in Canada. And that was for you, for me, I believe it was. So 2009, and it's 2025 now, so long overdue. Eiwin is with me. He just got back from the show. I know nothing, no spoilers. Who knows? Maybe a completely different tension to a Eiwin. I don't know. Can you tell me all about it?
Absolutely. I didn't see the shows in Sydney except for what was online on YouTube and other people's social media. So I don't know how much different it was from the shows that were in Australia, but it was really quite fantastic. I was kind of concerned at first when
all those messages, Eiwin, are people still messaging you about Kylie, are they?
They totally are. I have literally, I'm not kidding, I've got about 20 friends who've flown into Toronto to see the show. And so they're all like, we're all on a Kylie high at the moment. The show ended about, I'd say half an hour ago. And then I was in a giant mob on the Toronto subway to get back. It was just
nice. Kylie caused a riot, but I just love the ding, 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 ding. Talking about tension, tension, tension.
All talking about tension. So
I love that. Sorry, you were saying that at the beginning you were what? That you cut out at that point?
Well, I was just simply saying I hadn't seen the Australia shows, so I don't know how much different it is. But it was really funny because Kylie did mention in the middle of the show, she said, it's been a long time since I've been here. Does anybody remember when I was last year? And there was like a rousing shout from the crowd. And she was like, oh, that long. It's been way too long.
They gave her the right answer, I hope.
They gave her the right answer, yes.
And I'm right, aren't I? 2009.
That is correct.
That's unbelievable, isn't it? I mean, look, I complain sometimes when Kylie hasn't been to Australia in a while, but waiting since 2009, I mean, I can only imagine, Eiwin, at the start of a show, when she arrived, it must have been rapturous, if that's a word.
It was, and the thing is, I think certainly by the end, everybody was on their feet, just extremely ecstatic and grateful that she was here and that she came to Toronto and she didn't skip Toronto this time. And I think she just really won the crowd over. And she was just, again, so gracious. She was just lovely. And you could see that kindness and sincerity just really came through.
For those of you who don't know, Eiwin went to all bar 2, I think it was, of the Las Vegas shows. So we're talking to a mega Kylie fan. That's right, isn't it, Eiwin?
No, I actually saw all of them except one.
All bar 1. Oh, there you go. Which is amazing. So take us through it. We need to know everything about this show from the beginning onwards.
Okay. So it was at Scotiabank Arena in Toronto, which used to be called the Air Canada Centre. I've actually seen several shows there, but I haven't been to a show there in quite some time. And it was just amazing as we were walking through the venue, entering the venue. They've done a lot of improvements since I was last here. And one of them was they had a giant video screen on the ceiling as you walked into the venue. Wow. And they, of course, had a huge, huge picture of Kylie. And there were like lighted panels on each side as you entered the venue, which weren't there before. And of course, the image of Kylie, the Tension Tour picture with her in the red vinyl against the blue background. It was just amazing. And
so they had, honestly, this arena was Minogue Kingdom for the night.
Absolutely. They turned it into Minogue Kingdom for sure. And in addition, there were like a lot of people just outside the arena selling the bootleg T-shirts and everything. So you
Really?
definitely got the sense you were in Minogue land.
Well, that's something I haven't heard from any other shows. Certainly at the Sydney shows that I went to, no bootleg. Because, I mean, they have a crackdown. You just wouldn't get away with it here in Australia. But I didn't ask that question of the people who went to the Bangkok, Tokyo, Taiwan, all the Asian shows. I wonder if it was true there. But so what were they selling? Just
They had
T-shirts and...
Yeah, I saw four different T-shirts that were all along the same, tension theme. One had the famous dress from Lights, Camera, Action on one T-shirt. Another one had the red vinyl outfit I just said on the blue background.
Yeah.
And then another one had just multiple pictures of Kylie in black and white, which I didn't end up buying because I didn't think it was very nice looking.
But be
And
honest,
then,
Ewan, what was some of the merchandise being sold as bootleg better than the merchandise that was official? Because it wasn't up to much as far as I could see, the official
I have to
merchandise.
say, I think the one or two bootleg shirts I did buy were actually better and very cheap. They were 20 Canadian dollars, so
Wow.
it was
As
not
as
expensive.
opposed to how much for an official?
65 for the official
65
T-shirts. Yeah,
for a
65
T-shirt,
Canadian.
65 Canadian dollars.
That's a lot.
That's
in my opinion.
ridiculous, honestly. Anyway,
Yeah.
let's not dwell in the negative. But you're giving us a beautiful sense. You're outside the arena. It's a Minogue kingdom. There's bootleggers. There's a rush of people who haven't seen us since 2009, and probably, would I be right to say, a mixture of new fans as well?
Oh, absolutely. A lot of new Canadian fans, a lot of fans. I ran into many fans that flew in from various US or Canadian cities that have never seen Kylie before. For some reason, they chose to come to opening night at Toronto, which is great. And we met so many of these fans on like the subway going down to the venue, at the venue going in. Just, it was lovely. It was almost like a Kylie love fest for everybody in the North American continent.
Oh, that's wonderful. A beautiful description. I've got to say that's what I reported after the Sydney shows. Apart from the show, the biggest thing that struck me was the love in the air. I'm talking about before the show started. It was like just no aggro, lovely community almost, right?
Absolutely. And so, of course, when I went with a friend who I met at Voltaire during the Las Vegas residency, and his name was Scott. And when Scott and I took our seats, I'm not kidding, we recognized probably at least 20 people around us who were, we either met at Voltaire or met at various other Kylie concerts. So we ran into a lot of famous people. I ran into one of your most recent podcast guests. I ran into Efrat there and we took a few photos.
Yay! Hello, Efrat.
yeah.
I know you'll be listening.
And, I thought that interview she gave with you was just lovely, very touching.
Oh, she was wonderful. I'm very surprised I've never had a conversation with her in all these years because she's been around as long as I have. It was
Yes, and
wonderful to touch base.
Yeah, she is like, if I had to name one person who is like the utmost Kylie fan, I think Efrat would be that person.
Oh, she's got to be close to taking that trophy, doesn't she? Hey, did she have the doll? I mean, a silly question, probably.
And she had the Lights, Camera, Action dress on as usual.
She must dry clean it a lot.
She's getting a lot of wear out of it. And I wore my T-shirt with the photo of me and Kylie, so I'm getting a lot of wear out of that.
I love that. That's a beautiful photo as well. She was on the red carpet for the Grammys? No?
It was the American Billboard Women in Music Awards.
That's right. Yeah. And I think one of you perched your face on the other one's shoulder. I think it might be Kylie on your shoulder. It was a lovely photo.
Yeah, she was very sweet that night, and she put her head on my shoulder, and we took the picture, and it turned out lovely. And a lot of people, of course, at the venue noticed it, and they're like, "We love your T-shirt." So it was
that
great.
Is so cool. So lots of community before the shows even started.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I didn't even realize, I didn't feel like I had to wait for Kylie to get on the stage because I was saying hello to everybody that I knew right up to the last minute. And then when I looked at my watch and I realized it was 8:30, which was the scheduled time that Kylie was supposed to take the stage, I realized I better get to my seat because the show is about to begin. And sure enough, as soon as I took the seat, I think I only had to wait maybe 30 seconds before Kylie, the show began and Kylie took the stage. So I I didn't feel like there was a lot of waiting or downtime before her performance began.
And that's our Kylie.
Yeah,
Punctual,
no, she's
efficient, sensible.
yeah.
Sometimes amateurs know best, and a lack of professionalism is all you'll hear on the Time to Talk show. Join Tim and his panel of guests as they wade their way through a range of news, music, and pop culture treats. Time to Talk, the show hosted by amateurs for unprofessional listeners.
What was there tension in the air? Was there a big build in this particular arena before the show started?
Oh, for sure. And I believe the beginning of the show was very similar to the Australian shows, with the light show at the beginning with the Kylie saying, Toronto, we have to break the tension, and it just was really fantastic. And as that was happening, you could see people were really getting very excited. Like, I mean, as soon as the lights went down and that began, people were on their feet. They jumped to their feet and they were already like clapping and really excited to see the show. And I was just, it was marvelous. Before the show began, you could see like the wires for her swing. And at one point before the lights went down, I could see the wires were kind of vibrating or shaking. And I thought, she's probably getting on the swing right now. And then sure enough, when the show began and everything, I did record. I knew what to expect, having seen some of the footage on YouTube. So I kept my, camera phone on the swing, and sure enough, she went up while it was dark, and you could see her go to the top, and the diamond formed just as it did in the Australian shows. And luckily, it wasn't malfunctioning that I could tell. It was the complete diamond, and she was at, obviously near the top. And she started with lights, camera, action, and then they lowered the swing, and she went right into that. And it was just really, fantastic. And I tried my best. While I did see a little bit of the footage of the Australian and the Asian shows, I try not to watch too much because I wanted to really be surprised.
But you did watch, and that's disappointing. Why? You just couldn't resist? Why did you do it?
Well, you know me. I mean, like anywhere Kylie is, I want to be.
Yeah. Look, I'm being all smug here. I only had to black out for a week or so that was feasible. But if I'd had to wait as long as you did, there's no doubt I would have been tempted into watching the socials. That's for sure. So, as far as you could tell, was the show generally the same set list, or is it hard for you to compare because you did do a bit of blackout before the show?
Yeah, no, I believe it was exactly the same. And for the two songs which was the audience request portion of the show, she performed "Wow" and she performed "Where the Wild Roses Grow." So that was very an interesting choice of those two. So
and were they fan requests, or had she got them preset? Do you reckon?
Well, she said they were fan requests, but I think it was a little bit preset because, when she said, "Does anybody have any requests?" I mean, so many people were shouting, and she even said, "There's no way I can hear, anything," because there was so many people shouting song names out. And then she went up to her backup dancer and she goes, "This is the one that I think we're going to do." And so I think that was already pre-selected in my opinion.
Do you know what, Ewan? I'm glad you're opening this can of worms. I believe that maybe with the exception of Bangkok, it might have been Bangkok, because there was a lady who was on my show, Giang, and she was holding a sign saying, "Please stay," as in Kylie, please stay in Thailand, but
Right.
the double meaning, right, with the song. So Kylie did sing "Please Stay." So there's a bit of evidence that, okay, that was spontaneous, but I often wonder how spontaneous they really are, because you've got all those fans and you would hear the one that you've got in your mind, wouldn't you? If you were Kylie, like, I heard "Wow" over here, I'm going to go with that.
Yeah. And the thing is, if you have, like, if I was given the opportunity to be able to request a song, I would really definitely do something far more unusual.
Exactly.
I
Like,
would,
tell us. What would
I
you?
don't know. I think I would probably shout butterfly.
Yeah, good on you. That's a great
Because that's
choice.
one of my favorite shows from songs from Light Years, and that would be a
Mm.
song I would love to hear her do an a cappella version
I'm
of
right
that.
into the demo of Butterfly at the moment, I have to say. It's amazing. I actually think I'm liking it better than the Light Years version. But there you go. So where were you sitting, Ewan, in this big arena?
Oh, I'm happy. I was third row from the main stage. So, if she was on the main stage, I was really quite close to her. And I got a lot of good video footage, which I'll be uploading, of course, to my Facebook page. Now, when she was at the end of the catwalk, I was looking at her back. So
Right.
you get an idea. I was on the right side of the catwalk, 3 rows back from the main stage. So it was
So it
it
would have
was
been
great to
perfect
see.
for you when she was doing the Real Groove when she returns from the center stage. I think she's doing Real Groove at that stage.
Correct.
Yeah, and then she's right on the right side there, I think, and
Right.
and for that whole um, edge of Saturday night part would have been a good vantage point for you, I'm imagining.
hmm It was great. You're right. When she was returning from the B stage, um, she walked right past me, and it was just lovely to see her up close. And even though I was fairly close already, but to be even closer was amazing. And
I'm surprised she didn't go, "Hey, the guy from Vegas, how are you?"
I had the T-shirt on, hoping that she would see it and say that. But I think the problem was I was, as I said, 3 rows back, and then probably about 3 people in from the from the catwalk. So I think it was a little bit hard to see me. But tomorrow I have a front row for Montreal, and we're going to try again.
You're taking a bigger T-shirt. I like it. So she's renowned at this stage for creating intimacy despite the big arenas for the Tension Tour. I don't know how she does it. It was very intimate at Sydney, despite the fact that it was a huge spectacle of a show, particularly when she gets into that center stage. What
Yeah.
conversations did she have with the Canadian audience tonight?
Oh, she was lovely. She kept mentioning it's been far too long since I was last here. And, she always said, Toronto, are you ready to break the tension? She kept mentioning Toronto, and every time she did, everybody would scream and applaud. And then, of course, in Confide in Me, on the visual screen, she had a little neon sign, and it said, "Are you feeling lonely, Toronto? If so, call." And then that famous
Oh.
555 number. And when people saw that, they just lost their minds.
Oh, I wonder if she's done that in every city. Probably people listening will be going, of course she has, Tim, but I don't remember seeing Are You Feeling Lonely Sydney, and I've not had anyone say that to me. So that's interesting. Maybe I've
Yeah,
just missed
so
it for every show. How cool is that? That's pretty clever. I like that.
that was really, really, really cool. I
Yeah.
enjoyed it very much, and yeah, no, it was fantastic. I really enjoyed it, and as I mentioned in the previous podcast I was on, I grew up in Canada, so it was so nice to be back and to experience Kylie in my home country, and it was just to feel all the Torontonians giving her that love and everything. It was just really, really quite amazing.
The highlights of the show for you, Ewan?
Oh, without a doubt, without a doubt, it was the set in the middle where we heard "What Do I Have to Do?"
Yes.
Yeah, "Shocked," "Better the Devil You Know," "Last Night I Dreamt I Fell in Love," like all those songs,
Yep.
which she did not perform at Voltaire in Las Vegas. That was for me the highlight, because I heard the version of "Come Into My World." I've heard that version of "Hold On to Now," which is what she performed in Vegas. So for me, the highlights were all the songs that were in addition to those tracks that I heard previously. So,
Yeah.
and me, we've talked about this before, but I'm like old school Kylie. I love Rhythm of Love, and so those singles that came from that album, to
Yeah.
hear them live, which, as you know, for North American fans, are a rarity. She just doesn't perform them all that often.
Maybe this was the first time.
Certainly for, I think, "Better the Devil You Know," I'd like to. No, she did that on the "For You For Me" tour, I remember. But like certainly, But
I
the
don't
last
think
time I heard
Shocked and What
Talked,
Do I
yeah,
Have to Do would have got a. Oh, maybe What Do I Have to Do was performed at the Aphrodite tour, but not necessarily the For You For Me.
yeah, it's been a long time since I've heard those
Ah.
songs live. So I was very excited, and that was definitely the
So
highlight.
they
And
were the highlights for you. But
mhm.
what did you notice when, at what points in the show did the Canadian crowd erupt? Was it more typically at the big moments like Can't Get You Out of My Head, would you say? Or where was it where you felt the pleasure in the room?
Well, certainly in the beginning, like when people heard "In Your Eyes," "Come Into My World," I saw people began to really get into it, get into the show, and for sure at the end, you know, when "Can't Get You Out of My Head," "Padam Padam" came on, it was just like, I mean, by then the entire stadium was on their feet and just losing their minds, and of course all the lovers, they were just losing their minds.
Wow.
So
So Canadians really get into a Kylie show by the sound of it. Like there was not much sitting. There's a lot of interaction. There's lots of dancing. It sounds like there's a lot of energy in that arena.
there was, and again, I think it's just the excitement and the gratitude of seeing her, and she has bypassed Toronto, so much, and so I think the fans were just really, really ready to let her know, hey, we're happy to see you, and we want you to come back soon. And I can't wait to see the show tomorrow in Montreal because she's never performed in Montreal, and so let's see how the French Canadians take to it. I'm sure they're going to just go crazy for her. So.
How does that arena compare? Fairly much the same size, would you say?
Yeah, I've been to the arena in Montreal many times, mostly to see Celine Dion, who at one point could be found performing there almost any night you choose. But yeah, I'm excited to get back there and see the show in Montreal. And I have to tell you something. Growing up in Eastern Canada, the crowds in Montreal tend to be far more expressive than
Wow.
the ones in Toronto. Something to do with that French Canadian culture. They sing along. They really get into the show. I mean, they just. I've always, whenever I've seen shows, the same show in like Toronto, Montreal, the Montreal crowd has always just been completely bonkers and crazy, crazy, crazy.
Shout out again to Efrat, who was on our show before. In case you don't know who we're referring to, go back and have a listen. She's amazing as a Kylie fan. When I asked her what would you change about the Tension Tour, Ewan, she said, they're all fashion words, so I'll get muddled here. But essentially, when Kylie comes out, she had like a big, like triangle between her leg. Basically, the dress dangled to the floor.
Right.
I'm looking at your clip as we speak of her arriving on the stage. She's got pretty much the same dress that she wore in Australia and Asia, but it's absolutely cropped like a mini skirt.
Yes, it was, and she didn't wear that dress. That with the it looked like the point at the
Like a
bottom with the
train, maybe it's
yeah.
called. I don't know. I'm trying to get my words, but people know what I mean. It was long, whereas this is, and again, Toby, if you're listening too, you want sexy? My God, she's showing some leg, Ewan.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I thought the costumes, the outfits tonight were all extremely lovely. I was not disappointed with any outfit that she wore this evening, and she just looked really lovely. And I took so many photos, and I mean, you'll see within 24 hours, my Facebook page will be just turned into a Kylie
Well, for those of
Kylie
you,
appreciation page.
plenty of people are salivating right now. So look up Ewan Mark on Facebook and you'll be able to see all of this amazing footage that you've captured and the photos that will soon go up. Ewan, I've been dying to ask you this as someone who went to the Vegas shows, like one would argue excessively, all bar one, and you got very accustomed and maybe even Kylie acclimatized to that style of show, that size of show, that type of room she was in. Was it a weird experience for you to be in such a large venue after experiencing so many very small, intimate shows?
It was a little bit, but I really felt that this tour was just an expanded, more elaborate version of the Voltaire show. I felt
Yes.
like a lot of the arrangements for the songs, particularly like "Come Into My World," um, "Tension," the beginning of "Tension" and the beginning of uh, "All the Lovers" was just very similar in the arrangement that we saw in Las Vegas. So I really felt that what she did with this tour was she said, you know what, the Vegas show was a hit. Let me take this show and expand on it and take it to the rest of the world. And that's what I felt that this tour was. And I really felt like it was just an even better version of the Voltaire show with more songs, amazing costumes, better visuals, and so I really felt it was just an expanded version of the Voltaire show, and she just took all the great parts of the Voltaire show, and just made it even bigger and better.
Yeah, I thought the same thing when I was watching the Sydney show. I had a moment when I wasn't having an out-of-body experience, that is. I had a moment where I went, I think this is like Vegas on steroids. Some people have gone to the Tension show, Ewan, and their last shows were, Fever and Light Years and Kiss Me Once maybe, and even the Golden Show. And they said, not too negatively, but I have said it feels like a scaled down show for Kylie. But for you, in your perspective, coming from the Vegas shows, it must have felt scaled up. Do you understand where people are coming from when they say this is a different type of Kylie show? It's not Aphrodite?
Of course. I've, as you already know, I did see the Aphrodite tour, and I did see the Fever tour and the Showgirl tour in Europe. So I know the big over-the-top productions that she's famous for. And I'll be quite honest, when I first started seeing the footage of the Australian shows with the very scaled-down stage and big focus on the video screens and less focus on the props and the, on stage, I was a little bit disappointed, but I said, you know what, I'm going to reserve my judgment or opinion until I see the show myself. And then I'll, render my opinion. And I have to say, it is a different show, but I enjoyed it very much nonetheless. I was extremely happy and ecstatic at the end. And I had that feeling, that wonderful feeling you get when you see a show or a movie and you just go, wow, I am so glad I spent the money to see that. And I had that feeling. So I was not disappointed at all. And I think part of that is because the set list, in my opinion, was really quite exceptional. To include songs like Time Bomb, which, are just so rare. And so the set list was exceptional. Her costumes, as I said tonight, her outfits were she just looked lovely in every single one of them. I'm sorry, what was that?
And the voice?
Voice was great, and as I said, she exudes a charm and a down-to-earth generosity that just comes through when she's live. And I think people really appreciate that. And yeah, it just wins people over. That's all I can say.
I asked you this once before, Ewan, but you hadn't seen the show yet, obviously. I asked you, what do you think the American audiences in the USA will make of our Kylie when they see her in a full throttle? Because for you, for me, great show, was scaled back. This is the full experience. Now that you've seen Tension, will it translate for the average American fan?
I think so. I really do. I think they've been so starved for any kind of live performance from Kylie. I think that they're going to really love it. And of course, I'm talking about the North Americans who couldn't make it to Vegas to see the show there. I think they are just going to love this show because it's just, the set list is so impressive. It includes all of her favorites. And she just is just so charming. I mean, the charm just comes through, and I don't think they'll be disappointed at all.
I don't know how you could be in an arena with Kylie and not sort of fall in love with the presence. How someone so small can captivate such a large space is beyond me. Last question, Ewan, I'm dying to know, did she finish the same way that she has everywhere else? Was it love at first sight?
Yes, of course. That seems to be her
go-to. No! If there was one change, I still don't get it. And I know that I've heard some people involved in the show have actually heard a few of the podcasts. So I'm just going to say it again, just in case. Let people leave the arena pedaming, please, Kylie, please. What do you reckon about that? Am I on the wrong track? Is Love at First Sight the right closing track?
Well, she seems to like it. I kind of agree.
Well, that's what everyone says. Sorry, but you're being very polite. Everyone says that. Kylie likes it. Kylie likes it. She wrote it. She's proud of it. I know. That doesn't mean that it should be the closer of the show.
And, I think that, maybe Padam closing would, be a really solid, great, strong way to end the show. But, she loves Love at First Sight. And it is the song that I heard her end the 21 shows in Vegas with. So I'm used to it. So when she, we got time for one more song, I was like, Love at First Sight.
Oh my goodness. Goodness. She does love it. She's very proud of it, is a better way of putting it, in my opinion. I think she's proud of the fact that she had a huge hand in writing that song.
The other, I forgot to mention when you asked me what was the highlight for me, I also loved, of course, the mashup of all the songs from Disco. That was also really wonderful moment for me. Again, none of the disco songs, with the exception of Supernova for the very first show at Voltaire, was performed. And so it was nice to hear Real Groove and Magic, Where Does the DJ Go? It was really great. And Say Something, of course.
And Say Something, yep.
Yeah, Say Something is my favorite song from Disco. So it was lovely to finally hear it live. I don't think I've ever heard it live until tonight, so...
Oh, Ewan, it sounds like you had an amazing time, and it sounds like everyone who went had an amazing time, because you can read the room, and you certainly have given us a great description. The room was on fire tonight in Toronto, and tomorrow, Montreal. So as we speak, she might be having a little nap, I don't know, on a plane or something, I imagine. How she gets there, I don't know why I'm so interested in the logistics. I always have been. Does she leave in the morning? Does she leave tonight? Who knows? Maybe she's in one of the roadie cases, like I suggested you should be before. I don't know how she does it. But amazing you get to go. And I'm so glad you had a great time. Thanks for telling us all about it.
Well, thank you for having me again. And I'm always happy to talk anything Kylie with you and all the listeners. So,
well, here's the deal I want to make with you. You're going to Madison Square Garden, right?
Unfortunately, I'm not.
Oh.
I will be in Montreal tomorrow. I will then see the show in Phoenix in approximately.
Oh, Vegas, aren't you? Is that Phoenix?
Phoenix, Arizona, and then
yes.
I will see the final show in Los Angeles.
Right. Okay. Well, I want to talk to you again before the tour ends. Is that okay?
Of course, absolutely.
I'd love to do that. Thanks, Ewan.
Thank you so much, Tim.